It was a typical Friday night, and I was home alone. My parents were out for the evening, attending a party, and my younger brother was at a friend's house for the weekend. I was in my room, enjoying the rare solitude and playing video games. The house was quiet, the kind of silence you only experience when you're completely by yourself. It had been a long week, and I was finally able to relax. But that peace wouldn't last long. Around 9 p.m., as I was getting deeper into the game, I suddenly heard a loud noise coming from the kitchen downstairs. I paused the game, my heart racing. At first, I brushed it off, thinking it could have been the dog or maybe something falling. But there was no dog at the house, just me. I stood up, slowly walking toward the stairs. My feet made no sound against the carpet, but my heart pounded in my chest like a drum. I made it to the top of the stairs and paused. I didn't hear anything. Silence. I waited for a few moments before I began to head down the stairs. Just as I placed my foot on the first step, I heard it again, the same noise. But this time, it was followed by something else, a soft whisper. It wasn't loud enough for me to hear clearly, but I could tell it was a voice, and it was coming from downstairs. My mind raced. Who could it be? My parents? My brother? I crouched down to peek around the corner at the bottom of the stairs, trying to see if anyone was in the living room. And that's when I saw it. 4 men, fully covered in black. No faces visible. They were moving around in the living room completely silent. They didn't seem to notice me. I froze. My mind couldn't process what I was seeing. Who were these people? What were they doing in my house? I turned back to go up the stairs, but as I stepped, one of the stairs creaked loudly. I felt my blood run cold. I knew they had heard it. Panic surged through me. I sprinted back up to my room, slamming the door behind me. I grabbed my headset and told my 2 friends on Xbox to call the police. They were confused at first, but when I said it was serious, they immediately did. I didn't explain much. I didn't have time to. I quickly locked my bedroom door, but I knew it wouldn't stop them from finding me. So I made a decision. I'd hide. I slipped into the bathroom down the hall, turning off the lights and leaving the door slightly cracked open so I could see without being noticed. I held my breath, listening to the sound of boots echoing through the hallway. They were coming closer. The footsteps grew louder. I could hear them pounding up the stairs. Then came the banging on my bedroom door. But it wasn't the kind of knocking that someone would do to get your attention. It was as if they were trying to break the door down. Their voices were harsh, yelling for me to open the door. One voice said, "Come out. We don't want to hurt you, but you need to open up." I was completely paralyzed with fear, knowing they had every intention of forcing their way inside if I didn't comply. I couldn't stay hidden forever. Then I heard the sound of the backyard door opening. I panicked. I ran to the bathroom window and, in a desperate move, threw it open. I climbed out, but in the process, I slipped and landed hard on my neck. For a moment, I thought I might have injured myself badly, but I had no time to think about that. I had to escape. I looked up, only to see a silhouette standing in the window of the bathroom, watching me. My heart skipped a beat. As I turned to run, 3 of the men came rushing toward me from the backyard. They were gaining on me fast. I could feel the cold night air on my skin, but there was no time to enjoy the freedom. They grabbed me, pulling me back toward the house. But suddenly, the distant sound of police sirens filled the air. The men stopped. They exchanged quick glances before running toward the fence, jumping over it, and disappearing into the night. The police arrived a few moments later. They found me in the backyard, and I gave them the direction the men had gone. One man was caught inside the house, and they later found 4 knives and fully loaded pistols in the living room. It was too close. I'm still not sure what they wanted, but I'll never forget how my friend saved my life by calling the police. Day afternoon, and I was 17 years old. My parents were out of town for the weekend, leaving me home alone. I was looking forward to having the house to myself, catching up on some schoolwork, and maybe watching a movie. Everything started off normal. I made some lunch and settled into the living room with a good book. That's when the phone rang. I picked it up, thinking it might be a wrong number or telemarketer, but what I heard on the other end made my blood run cold. A voice said, "Is this Jack?" I replied, "Yes, who's this?" The voice paused for a moment before answering. "I'm just a friend." I could hear muffled sounds in the background. It almost sounded like another voice, as if he was speaking to someone else. But then, the line went quiet. My heart started to race. Who was this? How did they know my name? I tried to keep my voice calm. Who is this really? "I know you're home alone," the voice whispered. I froze, my mind spiraling with thoughts. I hadn't told anyone I was home alone, not even my friends. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice shaking now. The voice didn't answer. Instead, there was a low chuckle, and the line went dead. I sat there, holding the receiver, staring at it in disbelief. What the hell just happened? I tried to shake it off, but I couldn't. The phone calls continued. Each time, the voice would say something cryptic, like, "I know you're watching TV right now," or "I can hear your breathing." It was a dark and stormy night, one of those nights that feels different, like the air itself is heavy with something unknown. I had recently moved into a new apartment, a small one on the edge of town. I was looking forward to starting fresh in this place, but I had no idea what I was walking into. The apartment was old, but charming. It had high ceilings, large windows, and a beautiful, old-fashioned mirror in the hallway. I remember thinking it added character to the place, but something felt off about it. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I had a strange feeling whenever I passed by it. A few days after moving in, I was in the living room, sitting on the couch when I heard a faint whisper from the hallway. It was so soft that I couldn't make out the words, but it was definitely a voice. It sounded like a woman's voice, and it seemed to come from right next to the hallway mirror. At first, I dismissed it. The apartment was old, and the house creaked and groaned all the time. But then, that same voice whispered again. This time, it was clearer. It said, "Look at me."
Look at me.
A chill ran down my spine. I froze, unsure of what to do. I stood up and walked cautiously to the hallway. The whispering stopped as soon as I approached the mirror, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I stared at the mirror for a long time, trying to see if I could figure out what was going on. But nothing seemed out of the ordinary. That night, I went to bed, still unsettled by the events. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. It wasn't until I heard the faintest tapping on my bedroom window that I finally got up. I looked out the window, but there was no one there. I closed the blinds and tried to go back to sleep, but the tapping continued. I couldn't take it anymore, and got out of bed, walking down the hallway toward the window. I stopped dead in my tracks when I saw it. A figure. It was standing in the hallway right in front of the mirror. At first, I thought it was a reflection of myself, but then I realized it wasn't me. It was a woman, dressed in a long white gown, standing perfectly still, staring at me through the glass. Her face was pale, almost ghostly, and her eyes were wide open, unblinking. I was paralyzed with fear. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't even breathe. The woman's eyes seemed to pierce through me, as if she were waiting for me to do something, anything. Then, in an instant, she smiled. It was a sickening smile. Her teeth were sharp, almost inhuman, and they seemed to glint in the dim light of the hallway. I took a step back, my heart pounding in my chest, but I couldn't look away. Without warning, the figure disappeared. The mirror was now completely clear, with no sign of the woman. I backed away slowly, still staring at the mirror. Something was telling me I wasn't alone. Over the next few days, the whispers returned. They became louder, more insistent. Every time I walked past the hallway, I could hear them calling to me, pleading with me to look again. I eventually did the only thing I could think of. I covered the mirror. I used a thick sheet to cover it, hoping that if I couldn't see it, I wouldn't be haunted by whatever was in that reflection. But that didn't stop the whispers. They never left. I heard them every night, growing closer, almost as if they were right behind me. I moved out of that apartment a month later. I couldn't shake the feeling that the woman in the mirror wasn't just a figment of my imagination, but something much darker. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still hear her voice, and I can't help but feel like she's waiting for me to come back.